Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Hutchinson City Council meeting for Tuesday, June 25th, 2019. Approve the council agenda. Any agenda additions or corrections?
Mayor and council, I have one minor addition. You could put on as item number 9.5. It's a letter of support for federal assistance. This is regarding the U.S. Highway 212 project. There's a letter that's on your desk tonight for consideration.
I'll make a motion to approve with that correction or addition.
I'll second.
Motion by Mary, second by Steve to approve the agenda with the addition. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Invocation is from Living Waters Fellowship. Good evening.
Good evening. So we bow our heads. Father, we just thank you for the city council. We ask, Lord, that you would grant open and honest communication between everybody here this evening. We ask that you would grant the council members wisdom and discernment and guide them in the decisions that they are making to benefit this city of Hutchinson. In the name of Jesus Christ we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next is Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Guys gotta come every,
Like I said, loud and proud, I like it. Recognitions of gifts, donations, and community service to the city. Does anybody have anything tonight? Well, I would just like to congratulate one of our council people to being named to be the Vice Commodore of the Water Carnival for next year.
Thank you.
Doing double duties now, so.
Yep. Busy guy. So, yep.
I'm sure that your first mate will probably take care of most of it.
My wife is very organized and she will have a role in the water carnival.
Alrighty, we have a couple resolutions. We have resolution number 15066, a resolution accepting $30,000 cash donation from the VFW Post 906 for baseball field and shelter improvements at the VFW Park. The guys are here. Do you want to have
Yes, I'd like to present a check. Here I actually have a check. I'm not sure who I present it to.
Take it.
Oh, lucky you. You always do. A check for $30,000. That is given for the VFW Park and the backboard. I also have another request. We have an alleyway on the backside of the VFW that has some major potholes in it. And the bad part about this alleyway, it's also higher than one of our doors. So every time it rains or we have a really hard rain, it runs into our door. So can we get somebody over there to possibly look at that and come up with an issue, possibly paving it by chance?
John or Kent, you want to?
We can look at it for sure.
Okay.
Paving becomes, like, we've talked a lot about paving alleys over the last few years. There will be a cost involved.
We understand that. We understand that, and we would gladly contribute some to that, not all. Okay, thank you.
All right, thanks, Pete.
thank you.
Thank you.
So Dolphin, if you want to, or maybe you just want to give an update on what the 30,000 is all going to go to cover, so.
Sure.
You're up here, so.
Well, first, we appreciate the contribution, definitely. It's been about a 3-year commitment toward improvements at that park. It started with a piece of playground equipment, then a bathroom was installed, and now finally the next phase is going to be replacement of the ball field apparatus, which would include a new backstop, bench area for the ball players, a spectator area with a canopy over it. We enclosed the bottom of the shelter there. It was an open shelter at the bottom, so you get birds that would want to take residency up there and sometimes some squirrels. So now that's kind of closed off, just kind of dresses up the park. And it's been just a kind of a long-standing commitment by the VFW to that site over time. And we talked, I mentioned to the guys that we had our park master plan, and our consultant's always been very impressed by the level of community support that Hutchinson's garnered over the years from service organizations, veterans groups. It's just kind of, it doesn't happen in every town, here to tell you. Hutchinson's just been very blessed by those contributions. So we're excited to have these happen. We'll be meeting with Century Fencing, who does the work. I told the guys that we'll be getting on a list. Last year, we just about ran out of weather on our backstop projects in the community. So you just kind of get in line and hope for the best. If we get a long fall, it tends to go pretty good. But we appreciate the contribution, definitely.
I think the VFW needs a round of applause for our donation. Thank you very much, gentlemen.
It's really going to be a nice park now for baseball, so very complete. So, I remember playing there with our kids, and it get pretty hot, and you know, it really didn't have any facilities at all in the ballpark. So now it's going to be great.
There's a game there right now, actually.
Okay. Yeah.
We have a motion to accept that.
So moved. Make a motion to accept that. Dollars. Money, thank you.
I'll second that.
Motion by Dave, second by Chad to accept the donation. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Thank you. And we have resolution number 15072, resolution accepting donation of property from the Hutchinson Husky Baseball Association.
Yep.
It's the new home plate and pitcher's mound.
Obviously, from one group to another, we've talked about this at the master park plan. A lot of these donations help do what we can do here in this community with our many facilities. I know I had some conversations the day they were looking to actually purchase the equipment and donate it to us, but we can actually have probably about a $400 to $500 savings if the city purchases it. And I think they'd still put in, that sounds like that's going to be the plan from the Huskies, that they'll donate funds to us and we'll purchase it to save them on the sales tax. But either which way, it's still about $8,000 value when you include the labor, and that's to replace home plate and the pitcher's mound at the MF field. So.
There's representatives from the Huskies. You want to say something? Oh, come on, don't be bashful.
Come on.
All right. You have a motion to accept?
I'll make a motion to accept that donation from the Huskies.
I'll second.
Motion by Mary, second by Steve to accept. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Thank you, gentlemen. I think the Huskies need a round of applause, too.
Yes, they do.
Thanks, gentlemen.
With that, there was a request for fork truck, right, to help forklift, yeah.
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 Well,
So, no problem there.
that's, I
right?
think, the least we can do. So.
Yeah.
Alrighty, public comment, any citizens addressing the council? If you want to address the council, please come forward. All right, we have approval of minutes from the workshop of June 11th, 2019, and the regular meeting minutes of June 11th, 2019.
Make a motion to accept.
Second.
Motion by Chad, second by Steve to approve the minutes. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Consent agenda, this will be done with one motion unless somebody wants to pull something off for discussion. A is approval of short-term gambling license to the Poacher 414 at the VFW Post 906 on November 19th, 2019. B is consideration for approval of pavement repairs. C is approval of change order number 1, letting number 5, project number 18-05, South Central Drainage Area Phase 1. D is approval of authorizing Crow River Winery to dispense liquor at historic Hutchinson event at the depot on August 20th, 2019. E is approval of resolution number 15070, final plat for the city of Hutchinson Street right-of-way, plat number 14 with favorable planning commission recommendation. F is approval of resolution number 15071, conditional use permit for the used car sales and automotive repair shop located at 1130 Highway 7 East with favorable planning commission recommendation. G is approval of resolution number 15073, the site plan for the addition to Warrior Manufacturing located at 1145 Fifth Avenue Southeast with favorable planning commission recommendation. H is approval of purchase of walking floor semi-trailers. I is approval of resolution number 15074, accepting grant disbursement of funds. J is approval of short-term 3-2 malt liquor license to the McLeod County Fair Association on August 14th, 2019, and a temporary liquor license to the McLeod County Fair Association from August 15th through the 18th, 2019. K is approval of issuing short-term gambling license to St. Anastasia Catholic Church on September 8th, 2019. L is approval of approval of issuing temporary liquor license to St. Anastasia Catholic Church on September 7th and 8th, 2019. M is claims and appropriation and contract payments. Is there anything that anybody wants pulled off?
A quick question on I.
Aye.
I'll make a motion to approve the balance.
I'll second.
Motion by Chad, second by Mary to approve the balance. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Steve?
Just wondering where you're gonna put that money.
Annie and I had talked, and we were thinking at first, it's probably a conversation back for the council once we get that potentially in the capital fund, because we've talked about security upgrades and some plans for that area. And so just to make sure that it gets used within the DMV, that's what our initial plan would be, is to put in a facility fund for improvements over at within those offices, so. At the end of the day, there'll be some we'll bring forth for you guys to actually designate where that goes, so.
That's all. Make a motion to approve
I'll second.
or accept. Yeah.
Motion by Steve, second by Chad to approve. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Then, Mayor, I had a question that's
Oh.
unrelated, or
Oh.
mildly related to Jay, even though somewhat. Is 3-2 beer going away? Does anybody know? No? 'Cause
Not that
So
I
it was the
know
last
of.
one to have it.
that's what I was wondering, like,
I think Utah just got rid of it.
okay.
The last ones.
I haven't heard anything from a legislative standpoint that's
Okay.
going away.
Okay, I was just wondering.
So would that be worth talking to our legislators about changing that law, the 3-day maximum temporary, to extend that a little longer, or see if they'd do that?
All right, well, if it's sticking around,
Yeah.
there we go.
Yeah, I haven't heard anything.
Our company's still making it, if there's only one state still drinking it,
Might be a good question for Candace to see if
Yeah.
we can get some. I'll see if she can get some.
something to think about.
It's, yeah, you know, actually, strong beer isn't that much over
Stronger,
32. Right, when I hauled beer, I mean, it was, yeah, there wasn't, that much difference between strong and 3.2, so,
Sure.
but,
It's a little different now, though.
yeah.
Perfect, okay.
with the
All right.
craft
Thank you.
beers.
Yep. We do have a public hearing, but we got a little time here, so we will jump down to, we don't have communication request petitions or unfinished business, new business. We have resolution number 1509, I'm sorry, dyslexic every once in a while here. Resolution number 15069, a resolution community improvement fund balance of $500,000 for lakes and river basin restoration project.
Mayor and council, this was kind of a follow-up from our last council meeting when we had the, I guess the kind of the update of the plan that, and the study that was conducted over the past year. And there was a conversation about setting aside $500,000 to designate for future improvements to the water bodies in town. And so this is a resolution that would formally set aside that for those purposes.
John, you want to add anything to that? Or you hiding?
No, I'm actually getting the public hearing up here in a second, but no, I don't have anything.
All right,
I'd make a motion to approve it.
I'll second.
motion by Chad, second by Mary to approve. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Letter of support.
Yeah, Mayor and Council, we had, Councilmember Cook was out in Washington DC in regards to Highway 212, and there was a request that came in from, sorry, I can't remember the name now, from the Alliance, Transportation Alliance,
Ciao.
looking for support of communities for some federal assistance that they're looking to apply for. And so this is just kind of this is a letter to, I guess, officially support that project and the funds that they're going after. You know, as we all know, we've consistently tried to do whatever we can to support the expansion of 212 out in this direction. So.
A little bit more with that, you know, our Carver County's working on, you know, getting this infra grant that reinvest in infrastructure and rebuilding America. But, and that's what we are out talking about, meeting people with. But this build grant is a separate opportunity. So the idea was to be in line for that as well. So in case the infra grant doesn't work out, we have this other opportunity that we're actively pursuing for that.
So right now, it's just the letter would be coming from the mayor, but I would ask the council can, I guess, formally support, send it out.
I'll make a motion to send it.
Good. Motion by Chad, second by Dave to send the letter of support. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. We have a little bit of time. Steve, you want to touch on your trip out to DC for the,
Sure.
we got a little time left here.
Yeah, thought it was actually really good to go. The first night, we had a couple of speakers come in, and that was more really at a whole nother level, like, talking about some of the regulatory aspects of some of these federal projects. So, it didn't really mean much to me here, but somebody like Carver County reps and Washington County, the metro area, Hennepin County, where they do have these bigger federal projects, certainly meant something to them. But then the next day was really good, and we met, had some of the Minnesota legislators come in, especially the new freshmen, like Representative Craig, Representative Phillips, and Hagedorn and Stauber all came in and talked about transportation things, and generally very supportive, understanding the need, to increase funding for transportation. And then in the afternoon, we scheduled meetings with, met with Representative Peterson. Some people met with Representative Emmer, and then we met with staff members for Senator Smith and Senator Klobuchar, and then towards the end of the day, both Senator Smith and Klobuchar came to kind of a reception area and then talked a little bit more about it. But it was really good to meet with their staff members too, because they're the ones who really, they gave us a lot of time to really talk about the projects, 212 and the need, and so it was really good. And Representative Peterson, actually, the window was perfect where he was in one meeting and then had some time to come in and talk to us and listen, and then he had something else later on with that. But the good news is that Carver County found out that this 212 is now being designated as a high priority project. So that just elevates it in line of all the discussions. So it could be anywhere from one of the top 250 projects in the whole country to one of the top 50. So where it got left at that point was talking with the Congress members, was asking them to actually make a call to the Secretary of Transportation, not just an email or something, but actually pick up the phone and make a call to endorse, this project, and they're all willing to do that. So we'll find out in about a month maybe, where this is. And that's again for that infra grant. And then if that doesn't work out, this build grant's another opportunity. It was really good to go with, well, I think there was 64 people from the Transportation Alliance that attended. Some of those were for metro projects, but we had, for 212, we had reps from Marshall, Granite Falls, the UFC, the trucking, the grain co-op was there, the Southwest Transportation, the busing company, and some other freight people, and it was really good to go with McLeod County folks. It was Joe Nagel and Doug Kruger and Sheila Murphy, who's the acting county administrator. She was the assistant, and now she's acting as their, Cindy Ford had retired. But that just helped to reinforce, the value of 212 to McLeod County and to Hutchinson, and they could hear a lot of different ways. For us, it's manufacturing's a big part of it, but also safety and commuting and the workforce aspect of it, as well as agriculture, around our area. But then, the county folks talked about ag, and then again, the trucking and then the safety aspect as well. So it's really beneficial to have that dual representation. Plus, with some of the meetings that were being scheduled, there was some overlap, so we were able to split up to make sure we had our voices heard at the different meetings as well. So again, it was good. That first night, I wasn't so sure if this was really going to be worth it, but the next day, it was really good. And
Sounds like they at least spent some time to listen.
yeah, it was really good.
It's always, you're always wondering if it's worth going and,
Yeah.
to be able to be heard, but it sounds like you guys had a
Numbers were great, and, the other congressmen, when they came in and talked, they asked for, questions and took time to answer them, and so, yeah. I think everybody was really pleased. I think Matt, you had said you talked to Joe or something. Yeah.
Joe just passed and he said, yeah, he was.
I don't know if you'd heard anything back from anybody, but,
Yeah, John and I talked about it a bit, and, you've heard from Joe, I think, primarily, and I think really, obviously, McLeod County appreciates our involvement. I think even more so, Carver County appreciates our involvement and McLeod County's involvement, because they're putting a lot of time, effort, and energy into this cause.
Yeah.
And we got to be thankful of that, but I think they appreciate the support. I've heard that from their county engineer also over the last year or so. So it's a good thing that we are, like Steve mentioned, engaged in this and participating in things like this. And I try to go to the Southwest Coalition meetings to represent the city, and I know Commissioner Kruger is usually there, and it's been a good thing. And I think they really appreciate the support coming from us, because they're on a little bit of a limb here, pushing this cause, with respect to the metro area for 212 within Carver County. So they really need this support coming from outstate for what they're trying to achieve.
yeah, and Randy Lunchnick,
I believe, yep.
he's Carver County Commissioner, and, he was really, like I said, Kent said, really happy that we were there, and wanted, make sure, we got with Representative Peterson and also Representative Emmer in those discussions, and he was very happy with how things, everything that took place, so.
One more thing on the 212 front, and I know Matt and I think Steve are aware of this, but actually District 8, MnDOT District 8 is just starting another freight study. It's been about 10 years since they did their last one. And and the district puts a lot of effort into this. I think basically District 8 and then District 1 up north put a lot of effort into their freight study and talking to industries and haulers and really trying to arrive at a study that drives their transportation investment plan, over the next decade or so. So I'm sitting on that, representing the cities within the district, and and it's industries are on there, and obviously the counties, the townships have a representative. So I think that's going to be a good thing. And we had our first meeting last week in 212. The consultant, who's from out of state, granted they have an in-state consultant supporting them, SEH, but just them looking at the data within our district, 212 became a real focus of the conversation, what they're seeing for truck numbers and freight and movements, and that's somewhat contrary to, I think, how our district sometimes views 212. It's kind of way on the southeast edge of the district, or south edge, and Highway 23 a lot of times becomes the focus. from a funding standpoint, so I think we're off to a good start on that front.
And again, with that, that's why having the Marshall rep and Granite Falls, and they talked about that a lot and how important 212 is to them, even though this improvement isn't going to go out that far to them. They know as you head east, that volume just picks up and really picks up after Glencoe. So, you know, it benefits them as well.
Well, as they say, squeaky wheel gets the grease, so
Well,
you have to
yeah.
keep banging the drum.
Highway
right?
14.
True.
I mean,
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
for years now.
Yeah.
Highway 14's been the squeaky wheel. Granted, there's some definite needs down there, but yeah, I mean, you look at the investment that's been made down there, it's incredible.
Well, and that point was made by some people that will be back next year if this isn't successful, so.
All
Well,
right.
thank you for going, Steve.
Thanks, Steve.
Yeah, thank
And
you
reporting.
for giving the opportunity. I think, again, the county folks appreciated it, and it was nice for me. I got to talk more with Doug Kruger, you know, and develop more of a relationship. And Joe, I've known him for a while, but same with Sheila. So it was good that way as well.
All right. Public hearing, consideration for comments and input on stormwater pollution prevention plan for the city of Hutchinson. Evening, John.
Good evening, Council, Mr. Mayor. Every year we give an annual update on our stormwater activities from the prior year, and then also looking forward to things that we anticipate coming in the near-term future. Included in your packets tonight was the 2018 annual stormwater report that we submit to the Minnesota Pollution Control Agency, in addition to the board action form and then the presentation I'm going to provide. Worth noting, I did make a few minor revisions to the presentation, so it is slightly different than what you see in your packet tonight. Touching on the multiple things that we implement as part of our program, the first one that we usually focus efforts on is public education outreach. Involves a number of different things. A lot of this information is going to be kind of old hat, but it's always good to touch on it. I think it's worth noting. The city puts a lot of time and effort into especially this type of activity and trying to get people engaged, especially younger folks as well. School district is a good partner, both private and or both the charter and the public schools. So work on a lot of different fronts to get this information out to folks using our web page, Park and Rec Community Ed Stormwater page, the fall, summer, spring brochures, stormwater brochure, utility billings, stormwater best management practice details that's distributed to our developers. Anytime someone comes in for a building permit or any type of excavation, we provide them information as well. And then our annual public meeting that you see here. One thing worth noting too is we continued our rain barrel sale this year as well. A great way to engage with folks too, get them in there to think about water conservation and how the things they do within our home affect water runoff. And this year we sold 52 rain barrels, so we're still above that 50 mark. I remember a number of years ago we were selling 100 of these things a year. To me it's still incredible that we're still selling as many as we are. So with that.
So John, before you move on, we've had the rain barrel being sold for how many years already now?
I believe we're on year 7 now, 7 or 8.
And
something like
do you
that.
have a total amount?
Yeah, we've sold over 500 rain barrels in that period of time, considering, you know, there's less than 5,000 homes. That's one in every 10 or 1 in every 9 homes as a rain barrel. I see homes with, it's funny, you drive around town and you actually look, they're all over the place if you pay attention. A lot of people have 2, 3,
Right.
some have 4. I mean, it's really about ease, availability of people that want to utilize that water, proximity to their flowers and things. But yeah, they've been a popular item. People keep coming back for more. So
Some available?
yes, this year we actually purchased enough for 2 with the Crow River Organization water going away at the end of this year. The cities of Glencoe, Hutchinson, Otsego, St. Michael, a number of communities within the watershed actually kind of pool our resources and said, oh, we'll commit to purchasing so many this year. So what we ended up doing is we ended up buying over 100, the city Hutchinson did, So we're planning on buying enough for this year and next year, so we don't have to buy a full truckload next year. So yes, I do have still have some left, but the more I sell this year, since we're past that halfway point, the less that are available next year. So with that in mind, people that might be interested in one, next year we probably won't be buying another truck full. So whatever we don't sell out this year is what we'll have available for our sale next year. So yeah, like I said, seemed like somewhat of a hot commodity come April, May. And then, yeah, I just got a call the other day for another one. So throughout the summer, I'll get calls periodically for them. One thing we also do is storm drain marking. It's a great activity for groups that are interested in providing some volunteer support to the city or doing environmental type of activities with students. The charter school does a huge activity every year around Earth Day where they'll take 150 students and they do cleanups and different things, but a big component of that is storm drain marking. And then we're on kind of like a 4 or 5 year rotation, basically of visiting every storm drain in town to try to update those markers if they've been ripped off by a plow or finally wore off. Or so yeah, it's an ongoing effort with them storm drain markers, but it's, like I said, it's great simple opportunity, especially for students. Crow River cleanup, that's something too with the Crow moving away or closing up shop this year. We're still planning on doing that. 3M's been a great partner in providing volunteers support. We also have local partners and entities such as Subway that has provided lunch and things in the past. So we're still planning on providing that opportunity in the community this fall. Probably the same time. It's usually always Arts and Craft Weekend that Saturday morning out at Tartan Park. So we'll plan on moving forward with that again this year. All indications is the 3M folks are still eager to get out there and do that activity, which it seems like those involved always seem to have a good time. Even though it's muddy, messy, and the bugs can be bad, it is pretty fruitful to be involved in that.
So, John, just kind of name some of the things you pull out of the river, because it's interesting. It's right by my house, and I'm just amazed what you guys find.
It seems like every year there's a bicycle or two, some tires, shopping carts, barricades from Water Carnival. I mean, we found safes. We found every year there's endless number of golf balls and tennis balls and plastic bottles. I mean, that's a real common thing. You see anything that'll float. Right down to, we found some magnetic tape from who knows how long ago that was lodged in a bank, you know, from probably 70, 80 years ago. But yeah, we find all kinds of stuff. And like I said, that's kind of the challenge at this point, is who can find kind of the weirdest thing. So it's always interesting to see what someone dreams up or tracks out or digs out of the mud. Other things too, and like I said earlier, multiple volunteer trash pickup events with volunteers that want to help, if that's around city facilities or within city parks or along the trails. We try to accommodate folks that are interested in participating in volunteer activities. Signage, educational displays also. The rain gardens as an example, I always point out the depot one. There's one at the dam, Cedar Park. We've talked about putting one there too, and talking about expanding that as well, just to provide those educational displays to people out in the community. Illicit discharge detection and elimination is a critical component of our program as well. That's identifying anything not solely comprised of stormwater within our system. If it rains and falls on the ground, if it's not clean water running into our system, it comes from somewhere and it shouldn't be there. That's what a lot of our mapping system, a lot of our inspections that we do, and really that's what its purpose is, to identify where potential sources of pollution are coming from and what we can do to potentially prevent those or eliminate those in the future. Have 110 ponds within the community, 56 city ponds at the end of 2018. That number's up 4 from the previous year. Worth noting that we brought the 3 new basins on from the Cobblestone Hotel, that little short roadage that's there. And then also the Linden Park Pond is also included in that as well. 3,800 plus catch basins, 1,300 plus stormwater manholes, 94 miles of stormwater lines, and 76 outlets that leave our system into either a wetland, a river, or McEwen Creek. Responded to illicit discharge complaints as we identify things or get complaints regarding discoloration or sedimentation, or somebody dumping something within a curb and gutter within the community or a catch basin or something. The city has a process that we follow to respond to those types of things. That includes anything, even the things that happen intentionally or things that happen on accident. What you see here is a slurry of bentonite from a drilling activity. They didn't realize that there was a catch basin nearby, and it ran in there into one of our stormwater ponds. Thank God there was a stormwater pond there. It collected it, did its job, but we ended up having the contractor dewater that pond and sucking that greasy stuff off the bottom. So no harm, no foul, but those types of things are definitely what we're looking for. We're trying to identify anything, like I said, that's not wholly comprised of stormwater. We don't want it to get either into our ponds, and we definitely don't want it to get into our public water bodies. Another couple examples here. The one on the left is actually like a portable concrete dump, if you will. They can hook that up with a crane, but they rinsed it out now, unfortunately, or fortunately, I guess you could say, is we didn't see actually rinsing that out into that catch basin that's in the circle under the red there. But those are the things we definitely don't want to see. To see something that's an industrial commercial use potentially being washed out to a catch basin. But yeah, it's just a matter of taking that opportunity, educating the contractor to say, hey, one, we definitely don't want you washing it out there. Two, you shouldn't put it there in the first place. Three, we need to get some protection around that too. So a number of different issues, but just as a few examples that might shed a little light on some of the things we look for out on not just construction projects, but within the community as we're in our daily activities. Conducting staff training also includes identifying and informing staff on what these things are, what to look for. It might be as simple as grass clippings within the street. Those are probably about the most common that we see. A lot of times it's just talking to the homeowner if we identify that occurring, or after the fact, have them clean it up and say, hey, just be cognizant of that. Try not to distribute that out onto the roadway. And then also educational materials to the public through all the previous things that I identified either on the website or through stormwater brochures. Construction site stormwater runoff control, as I said, we permit all the excavation activities within the community. That includes performing site inspections on projects, stormwater design review. The city's required to have a checklist for when someone comes forward with a larger project, if it's the hospital or Century Court, to make sure that they're sizing their ponds properly and to make sure that they have their best management practices in silt fence and inlet protection and those types of things in place. And then also providing a call number for people if they see or identify one of those issues within the community. Common things we see on construction sites, inlet protections are either missing or aren't properly maintained. Same thing with perimeter protection. If you see bio rolls a lot of times around town, silt fence, those types of things. Stockpiles need stabilizing. They've been sitting there for many, many months and they're not green, and you see the rills on the side. That's kind of what we do not like to see. So taking those opportunities to talk to the contractor to either get rid of the stockpile or stabilize it. And then dewatering sediment and then sediment tracking out onto the street. Sediment tracking out on the street is one that we still see periodically. Of course, a wet spring like this is unavoidable to a certain degree. They might have rock entrance, they might have things in place to prevent that, but it still happens. The biggest thing is being diligent about cleaning that up as soon as it happens or before the end of the day or definitely before the next rain event. So I'm working with the contractor to make sure that they're aware of those issues and that what our expectations are is a really important part of our program. Currently, we're implementing operation maintenance process for our best management practice, i.e. inspecting our stormwater ponds, identifying which ones need maintenance. Might include things as simple as spraying and removing thistles, but also goes to the extent of actually having to clean out our stormwater ponds. As you can imagine, that's an expensive process to dewater a pond, excavate all the muck out of the bottom. Last year was actually the first time we cleaned out a couple of our ponds. One of the other things that we're cognizant of that is what is actually in the sediment. Pollutants of concern and those types of things. So we actually have to do core samples and sediment sampling and analysis of that sediment prior to that excavation to make sure that when we excavate, clean it out of there, where can we dispose of it and what we cannot do with it. So last year we actually did do our first 3 cleanouts. They were all around the Greens Pond or the Greens development area up by Golf Course Road, North High Drive. But yeah, actually process went really good. As you can see, that stuff is highly organic. It's black, grayish slop. I mean, it's to be able to get that cleaned out of there, that pond looks way better. I think the residents even say it actually looks like a pond again. It doesn't smell like it used to. I mean, all kinds of different things. So restoring these ponds back to their functionality once they get to a point where the requirements are is if a pond is more than 50% its design capacity, the city needs to develop a plan to get those cleaned out. So yeah, these were probably our worst two of our worst ones. The third one we cleaned out just because we were there. Being opportunistic with it to just make sure, hey, if we're cleaning these ones out right next to it, might as well clean that one out as well. Went really well. Restoration activities were greened up really nice this spring and late fall. We're actually waiting to do pavement on that little trail around that thing here in the next few weeks too, so.
So what about the material?
This material was actually clean. We were really fortunate that way, so we were able to stockpile it, and we're gonna, try to just grade that off, seed it off, and use it basically as a fill material. The limiting factors that we had concerns about when we do those sampling, sometimes if it's the materials got high enough concentrations of certain pollutants, it has to go to basically a hazardous landfill, but we didn't see anything like that. These were all soil reference value level 1, so we didn't have to worry about disposing it of in a landfill. We didn't have to worry about disposing it of or using those types of soils. There's prohibitions on like playgrounds or ball fields or places the public can come in contact with it. We didn't have those limitations on this type of material. So basically we could dispose of it in a farm field or we could use it in a park, not that we did, but we could use it basically just about anywhere. It's not a very good suitable fill material from a compaction standpoint. As you can imagine, it's highly organic, it's flowable.
Creekside.
Yeah, Creekside. The problem with it is there's too much of it. Creekside couldn't have handled all of it at the time, so that's part of it, is putting it in a place where we can dewater it. It's contained, it's vegetated all around it. So that was the kind of that intent, was dewater it, allow it to dry out, and then potentially maybe Creekside, if they have a use for it in the future, they could potentially access that material.
So John, time-wise, how long does it take to clean out one of those ponds?
This one took probably about 4 or 5 days from the time they started dewatering it to the time they got it drawn down and got all that material hauled out of there. This is about, I'd say, an average sized pond. The amount of material that they had to pull out of it, it's about a 5-foot deep pond, and it was roughly about 1.5 feet deep of water across most of its surface, so there's quite a bit of material in there. But yeah, it took about 4 or 5 days from start to finish to actually get it out. Now, restoration, vegetation, those types of things obviously take a longer period of time, but the actual excavation of the pond itself and all the trucks coming and going, I mean, it was a pretty extensive process. Fortunately, we didn't have to dispose of it in Elk River or somewhere. I mean, that's the problem with some of these pollutants, is if you got to haul it, I mean, you can imagine just the trucking costs are going to be 10 times what it'll cost to actually excavate out the pond. So that's a real concern for a lot of Minnesota municipalities with some of these ponds, especially in the metro. We're not immune to it either. We're just fortunate these ones weren't higher levels. So that day might come where we might actually have to look at spending a lot more than even what this project costs to excavate out and primarily to dispose of the material. Pollution prevention, good housekeeping. Pollution prevention, it is what it sounds like. It's trying to keep the pollutants basically before you can deposit them, before you give them an opportunity to run off. Ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. That's something we implement and educate our staff about on an annual basis. Through city staff training, street sweeping program, we also are really diligent about that. If we can keep it out of our pipes, keep it out of our ponds, it's a lot more cost effective to remove it off the surface than it is to have to go chase it after it through those other means. As you can imagine, like I said, dredging out a pond is a lot more intensive than actually just running a sweeper up and down the street for the entire summer. Leaf pickup programs remains popular. That's very effective in removing a lot of organic material off of our streets. Keeps it out of our storm system, out of the river. Inspections of our stormwater system controls. We had 52 ponds at the beginning of 2018. We inspected 29 of those. The city's required to inspect them at least once over their 5-year permit term. So basically 20% of those ponds. We always go beyond that. We kind of prioritize our ponds based on their needs and inspections. Likewise with our outfalls. We had opportunity last year through our mapping process. We wanted to get out to most of the outfalls and update the information. The outfalls that weren't identified, those 12 that we didn't get to, already had the information we wanted. So when we went out and we collected all the remaining information that we didn't have on those outfalls, we did an inspection on them. So yeah, we went way above and beyond that 20% on the outfalls as well. One of the things we look for illicit discharge, we look for maintenance needs, we look for all those things when we go to those either outfalls or ponds. And then conducting follow-up inspections and repairs on infrastructure when maintenance has occurred. And we see some weird stuff. The pond on the left was actually one of our little furry critters again, decided to plug up one of our stormwater outlets from one of our ponds. We didn't notice it until it had frozen over. So yeah, we were out there chipping ice and finally got all the brush and debris and stuff off of there, but we didn't have to go chasing any of the furry critters this year, thank God. So at that point in time, we just got it opened up and then the pond drained down, and it seems like it's been functioning ever since, so he must have moved on. And then the picture on the right is just an example of a clogged stormwater inlet into a pond, or where it leaves our system and enters into one of our ponds, crammed full of leaf and plastic bags and garbage. It's a great example of something we don't like to see, but something that's, once we notice it, we can access it, clean it out, jet the pipes out and get them back into fully functioning service. Additional information worth noting, local resource for answering stormwater questions. We do get calls from local businesses, people within the community that have questions about stormwater. That might be even about something simple as a rain barrel. How much water can you generate off my roof? Something as simple as that can go a long ways. I think it builds that trust within the community for people to know that, hey, they can call on you and ask those questions and be a reliable resource for them. City's actively involved with the Minnesota City Stormwater Coalition. South Fork Crow River TMDL is pending approval. I've been talking about that thing for 4 or 5 years now. The latest I've heard is possibly might get approval of that TMDL as early as this fall. There's pros and cons of that. One of the things I'll touch on in the next slides regarding our MS4 permit, and that'll have a direct bearing on that TMDL. Reporting on the progress by the city to meet TMDL waste loader allocations would be coming with the new permit. So if the TMDL is approved with the reissuance over the next MS4 permit, we'll actually have to report on progress being made to meet those waste load allocations, which includes doing additional modeling and things within our community to prioritize projects to get them on the ground, to continue to try to reduce our phosphorus loading, total suspended solid loading, those types of things to the river. Lake River Basin nutrient trading potential, something we're also been looking at, something as part of the Lakes River Basin study that we've been doing that also ties in potentially with our actual wastewater treatment, NPDES permit reissuance, looking at that as a possible trade. So we've been communicating with the Minnesota Pollution Control Agency and their trading folks on that as well. MS4 activities, the MS4 permit reissuance should occur in 2019 here. They've issued an informal draft for public review. They haven't actually put on public notice yet. But with that in mind, that's coming along full steam ahead. As part of that, some of the things we're seeing is chloride education, smart salting. Within the metro, primarily, chlorides are huge issues in lakes and rivers. So one of the things they're proposing that MS4s have to do education, public outreach specifically related to chlorides to big box stores, people with large parking lots, to educate them, provide them information on smart salting. Just because you have the insurance risk doesn't necessarily mean that you have to over apply your salt by a 3 or 4x factor. So how much salt's enough to be safe, and those types of things are things that the MPCA is proposing as having as part of our MS4 permit. And then also one thing to note is potential for tighter redevelopment stormwater standards, which would include basically any project over an acre of disturbance would actually have to install stormwater treatment for that activity, even if it was already pre-existing. Redevelopment standards today just basically state that any new additional impervious surface on a redevelopment has to be treated. What the PCA is proposing is that actually all existing impervious would have to be treated for any project that disturbed more than an acre, even if it already existed. So that's a big change, as you can imagine, a roadway with houses on both sides of it. How are you going to cram a stormwater pond within that that right of way, or to accommodate that proper amount of treatment? So that'll be a challenge. That's something we're working with the PCA on to express those concerns and try to find out appropriate measures where we can potentially either work around it, provide some other off-site treatment somehow, some way, so that we don't necessarily have to try to put BMPs in a bad place, or it becomes a cost-effectiveness issue too. So working with the agency to try to identify alternatives, other solutions, has been a big part of this public notice process. So expressing those concerns to them and looking at those alternatives is something we'll continue to do moving forward.
They sure like to stick it to cities.
Yeah, absolutely. We're the only ones that can.
Yeah.
And they've told us as much. That's the unfortunate part of it. I think another important note on that front as well is not only do they acknowledge that, but they also realize too that it's never going to get any better unless someone's pushing the envelope. And the MPCA, or even MPCA's in front of Wisconsin or Ohio or the Chesapeake or Oregon or any of these states, the Minnesota Pollution Control Agency is pushing that limit. I mean, they're right on the forefront. They're trying to make the best out of a bad situation for so many of these different things. If it's nutrient impairments or sediment impairments, we are leading the way. The rest of the country is kind of watching what Minnesota does now, and that's good and bad. It's good from a water quality standpoint, but it can be very difficult if you're an MS4 or one of those that gets hit with all of those layers and layers and layers of regulations. So challenging, yes, but at the same time, like I said, it's no one can say we're not doing our part for water quality. I mean, that's an important component of that as well.
Well, not that we have no lakes around.
Right, absolutely. So, and it is an important resource. And that's part of the reason why Minnesota, that's why we had the land legacy amendment a number of years ago. That's obviously Minnesotans feel that water is important. Our local resources are important, and yeah, we'll continue to do what we can, or what we must at least. I think Hutchinson's positioned in a good way to. We have stormwater utility fees. We have resources available for doing those types of things. We have the staff to be able to implement those. There's a lot of communities in Minnesota that aren't as fortunate. So it's not that we can't do it. It's just we'll do what we can when we can and as we're able. We'll continue to do pond surveying to assess the effectiveness of our ponds, and then seek and evaluate funding sources for basin sediment management options. That's something we've been talking about. I had the resolution tonight relative to Lake River Basin study. Mitch, I believe, be talking to Mitch tomorrow about Lakes River Basin study as well. So see something in the Hutchinson leader here in the next few days as well. So yeah, it's on the forefront. So many of these things that we're talking about, not just in our stormwater side, but wastewater, public works, roadways, it's all intermingled from all the activities we do with seasonals or PD, fire. I mean, there's so many different components associated with water quality and the environment. And I think it's important to kind of leave it on the last note to say that, like I said, we're on the front edge of this. I mean, we're trying to do everything we can within reason to try to make sure we can say, hey, we're doing our part. And hopefully, eventually, the rest of the state of Minnesota, either with or without regulations, can kind of get behind that as well. I mean, Clean Water Act didn't do it overnight either. It took a long period of time to even make the progress we've made, and I can fully expect to continue to make progress in that direction.
The one thing I see with summer here now is when people mow their lawns, they get on the boulevard, they throw all the lawn into the street.
Mm-hmm.
You know, everybody needs to have a heads up not to do that.
Right. And
So what would you tell someone, like, well, it's organic, you know, what about the leaves, or, you know, what's so harmful with that?
Right.
What do you tell them?
Just the nutrients in itself. One thing is I always make sure to note to people is they say, well, there's a sign there, I can't mow it any other way. And it's okay to blow the grass clippings in the street, but blow them back out. Yeah. It's just as easy to you spend 45 minutes mowing your grass, make one pass on that street and blow those glass clippings back up on the boulevard. You'll never even know they were on the street in the first place. And a lot of times that's what ends up happening. I see something like that driving around the community. I stop and say, hey, oh, yep, I know, I always do that, but I always clean it up. You know, some people, and there, of course, there's the same amount of people out there that say, oh, what's the big deal? You know, and do a little education on that front to say it's nutrients that shouldn't go there. The streets are, the reason we sweep our streets, the reason they're paved, all of those different things are contributions to stormwater quality. And anything we can do to minimize those impacts, like I said, that's why we sweep, that's why we have ponds, that's why we do these things. Pollution prevention is by far the most cost-effective form of keeping those pollutants out of our waterways and eliminating those impacts to water quality. So yeah, that's by far the most cost-effective approach. So a lot of times it's just a matter of knocking on a door or saying hello.
So John, do you work with the people that have private ponds too, helping them?
Yep.
Doing the testing and stuff for them?
We haven't done the testing for them in the past, but we do provide them that insight too, to let them know what those requirements are. An example, the Oaks and Pines did a pond clean out, I think 1.5 years ago or 2 years ago maybe now. But in talking to the contractor, talking to the property owner, they called and said, can we remove cattails? Apparently cattails are a sacred thing to some folks, but stormwater ponds they're not a public water body. They're not a river, they're not a lake, they're a treatment pond. And sometimes those things need to be maintained, and that means removing cattails and, those types of things, eliminating some of those misnomers and educating people on those fronts is really big too. They're actually really pleased once they get it cleaned out of there, and they're happy, and all of a sudden they're like, well, it looks nice. And I said, oh, don't worry, the cattails will be back. So they won't be gone for long. So yeah, we will talk to folks and kind of tell them about the sediment sampling and those types of things, and make them aware of what those issues and concerns are.
Anything else for John? Open it up for public comment.
Thank you.
Sounds like a job that could last forever.
Well, I'm sure it ain't going away. Yeah, and there's over 200 MS4s in the state of Minnesota. I think it's like 250 now, 250 and change. And that includes municipalities, anything over 5,000 people population, MSU colleges, the VA hospital in St. Cloud. I mean, there's townships, there's big cities, small cities, everything in between now. So it's widespread, and there's lots and lots of efforts going forward to improve water quality based on our stormwater treatment system.
Makes a lot of sense. Thank you.
Yep, thank you.
Well, and it gets down to the Minnesota River. That's one of the worst in the country, right? So, all plays into that.
Yeah, the Crow's not a whole lot better
Yeah,
from that
not
standpoint.
much. In our river study, that kind of shows some of that,
Right.
at least from the sedimentation part.
Thanks. Make a motion to close the hearing?
I'll
Second.
You got it.
Motion by Chad, second by Dave to close the public hearing. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Thanks, John.
We need a motion to accept it, or you just,
file the annual report.
yeah, okay.
I don't know, we do have it on that, at least the board action form says approve or deny the report, so.
Make a
Might as
motion.
well, so.
I'll second it.
Motion by Steve, second by Chad to accept the report. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Thanks again, John. Governance, we have City of Hutchinson Financial Report and Investment Report for May 2019. Hutchinson Housing Redevelopment Authority Board minutes from May 21st, 2019. Planning Commission minutes from April 16th, 2019. Chief Gripperson, do you have anything for us tonight?
I do not.
All right, thank you. Kent?
Yeah, just a few things project-wise, quickly. Finally got some decent weather last few weeks here to clean up some project work on our 2018 projects. Pond out there looks good. Seeding was a little late. There was a change order earlier this evening within your packet. We had to stretch out the completion date. That meant the seeding went into the ground probably later than desired. Obviously July is upon us here, and that can be not so good with respect to growing new grass, depending on the weather and the heat and such. So we'll see what happens and monitor that and work with the contractor accordingly. Yeah, also touched up some painting on the 2nd Avenue Bridge, finished up on the northeast corner of town, up on Northwoods, Spruce and the 11th. And what was the other one? Century, yeah, forgot about the big one. So touched up a few things out there on Century Avenue. And looking to finalize the paperwork and get our federal aid reimbursement in place on that front. Other than that, 5th Avenue, first stage, 1A, basically the easterly end by the bridge, 3M entrance, ball field roadway there. That should be open this Friday as specified in our contract. So contractor did a great job on that end, and Yeah, I don't know if Steve's heard anything on the 3M front, but we've been in contact with them throughout. And
Yeah, they're letting people know that it'll be available, Monday, basically, that they can still go in Fair Avenue through Sunday, but, it's still coming in on Michigan, right? That
Yes, you
Yeah.
still won't be able to, utilize Fifth Avenue from the west.
From Adam, yeah.
From Adam.
I
It'll
don't
still
think
be
that's
closed
been
from.
clarified real well, so I let people know that, so, somebody was saying, man, they got a lot to do to get that. Oh, no,
All right, otherwise, bid openings scheduled, we finally got approvals from the state on South Grid Road. And we also scheduled the bid opening for our water treatment plant, reverse osmosis membranes. Both of those are occurring next Wednesday, the 3rd. TDK Upener roadway, what we're hearing from the contractor is probably starting the week of the 8th of July. So that should be coming soon. And then lastly, I just wanted to mention something on the Highway 15 Main Street front that's really evolved, and rather you hear it from us, and it's just a reality we're gonna have to work through. But MnDOT did finally get their environmental analysis put together and in place. They did the borings this spring. You might have noticed about a month and a half ago, there were some no parking signs out there and kind of a moving target going on. And they have a draft report that's been put together on that front. There's some bad petroleum-based contamination out there, not only soils, but groundwater due to the granular soils that exist up and down. So really at this point, we're trying to figure out with MnDOT what our options are. We have to think about it from a pipe, material standpoint, where can we de-water trenches to, what can we do with that water? And really what we're waiting for now is for MnDOT's environmental consultant to finalize their report based on the borings that were done just a little bit ago, like I said. And then MnDOT's environmental people will bless it, and then we can really then take it and incorporate it into our design effort. Obviously, this is going to have some cost ramifications, so that'll be sorted out within the cooperative agreement between the city and MnDOT. Probably in 2-3 months, that agreement will get drafted and tweaked and ultimately brought to the city council.
Is it more or less just on that north end? Ken?
Yeah, it's more or less First Avenue North, no secret there, I guess, yeah.
The old gas
Give or take
stations?
of that intersection. There's a little bit to the south down by 2nd and 3rd. There's some dry cleaning solvent down there. I don't know if you recall it, dry cleaner down in that area.
There's a
So-
gas station where Mid-Country Bank is. too.
Okay, I don't know if much petroleum showed up.
On there.
There's some hints of a little bit of petroleum down there, but nothing nearly as
That is,
serious and significant as First Avenue North there.
well, there was, 3 of them down there, right? Mary, do you remember? Yeah.
I think there were 3.
So yeah, just wanted to mention that, and words out a little bit, and yeah, we're gonna be sorting through that.
Great.
That's it.
Thanks, Kent. Mr. Sabora?
I don't have anything else. I said too much already.
I wish you wouldn't be so talkative. Chad, let's start with you tonight.
Yeah, the cracks on the South Grade Road in front of the middle school, the path got filled. They're as smooth as glass now, so whoever was
Yeah, I
responsible for
mentioned
that turned out great. Otherwise, I don't have anything.
Put a few miles on the bike class.
Yeah, we've been out there, yep, in between water carnival stuff, but yeah,
Yeah.
just got, I would say like 10 days ago maybe it got done. So yeah, they did a nice job. So.
All right, thanks, Chad. Mary?
I just wanted to thank everybody who worked on that water carnival, the JCs and anyone else, because it was a great water carnival. The fireworks were wonderful. I had the opportunity to be on the river for the fireworks. Awesome, I mean, it is. And whether you get enough thanks, there's a lot of people out there who say, this is awesome that the JCs step forward and do this for us, and the city and all the work they do to make it happen. So thank you to all those people. The police department, I mean, it just went great. The parade was great this year. Everybody liked the time frame of the parade this year. It was maybe a little tightened up, you know, not so far in between.
Well,
Some
MinDOT
things?
gives us a very specific window, so we,
So,
there's no leeway in that.
and that worked just beautifully this year. It worked really well. So thanks to everyone who made it happen. That's it.
Thanks, Mary. Dave? Yes,
Oh,
you.
I thought you said Steve, I'm sorry.
Dave.
I was wondering why you jumped me, but that's okay. I really don't have anything. It was, Water Carnival was fantastic. Mary kind of shot me out of the water with that, but,
Yeah.
other than
Mary,
that.
Mary
why-
does steal your thunder once in a
Yeah,
while.
some once in
so-
a while, but, no, it's, been good. Now if the weather will hang on for the crops and the lawns to grow really large so we can mow grass into the gutters. But, it's great, thank you.
Great. Steve?
Just an update on the pillar project. We had our selection committee, had presentations, artists for the trees and the side panels, and had some good presentations, a variety of things, but we did pick Nick Legaros to do the trees. Nick has had 2 pieces in the sculpture stroll. One was the Dreams Take Flight, which was in the library last year, was the People's Choice with the girl, you know, throwing the plane. And then he also did the Hillaway Ponies several years ago, and that was down by the pedestrian bridge along the trail. Very accomplished bronze sculptor. He's done some really big projects. He has a Goldie Gopher for the U of M. You'll see that. A lot of the recruits will be standing next to that or leaning up on it. And then he has a piece of Sid Hartman down at the Target Center. So some big projects. And then for the side panels, we picked Greg Mueller from Lutzen. Really does some beautiful stuff as well. And they actually know each other, both worked, which we didn't tell anybody, you know, who the other people were that were giving presentations, but it so happens they do know each other well, and both worked and studied under Paul Granlund, who was one of the premier Minnesota sculptors through Gustavus College. So the next part of that is now, you know, getting our grant application in and see how that works out. So that's due July 24th. So that's it.
Thanks, Steve. Yeah.
Yeah, just a couple things. We were supposed to have our rec center roof bid opening last week, and we did not receive any bids. So, most of what we heard from the contractors was that the window was too short. So we were looking at the end of August to, I think, beginning of November. And then on top of that, they're busy. Workers to, I guess, expand their, so, we'll do it back to the drawing board on that. I think right now they're looking at eventually rebidding that November, December for a spring project. So with that, we'll likely come back and from the council for consideration as well.
With that, you know, since we had the master plan today, you know, and kind of talked about that, you know, do we keep the existing gym, rec center and add on to that, or, you know, would there be a desire to get that facility plan process going to look at it, you know, what might be the best option, you know, for that facility, and I just think like the pool, we tore that all out and started over. Same with the school, they did the same thing, and for the most part. And, does it make sense instead of having two side by side with the sloped roofs versus starting over and would that enable us to utilize the space even better? And I don't know, but that facility plan could be part of that, and maybe in the short term then it's just doing something with the roof instead of the whole facade piece, but if we had that study, then that could help answer some of those questions or be the start of a plan for that whole facility as well.
It's fine, like I said, when you take the facade off, you're still looking at $500,000 to fix that roof. I mean, I think that's what we learned as we went into it, is it's not a, so, I mean, is there a Band-Aid? That's, I guess, probably the next question, because it's, okay, what do we do with the users of that? Because there's times where you can only use half the gym because of the amount of water that's coming in too. So, but you're right, it's a tough question to answer because of the amount of use that building gets right now. And with the police station, if it's 6-7 years, it's really, I guess, a question it's a tough one to answer, just knowing with how often that facility gets used and the water problems we've had the last 2 years.
So I don't think the facility's that far gone that we have to worry, I think that just fixing some things up, that building would last a long time yet.
I'm just, again, thinking as far as what the end product would be, and, we know what that is right now, but from a community standpoint, what are the options, and understanding that. And I know when you talked about the roof, and that's all designed for the next 20, 30 years, well, what would the option be if it was something more temporary,
5 years.
I don't know.
Yeah, I think that's something we can at least have a conversation on. Obviously, a reminder that city offices are closed July 4th. And so with that, that's a Thursday, with that, the council packet's going to be going out on that Wednesday, 3rd. So if you have any packet information, we'll need that by end of the day on Tuesday of next week. So a little bit compressed time. And then we'll have a more formal, I guess, announcement to the public, but I would anticipate that citizen survey to probably go out end of July. So that's it for me.
All right, thanks, Matt. Talking with Dolph, we did have somebody that did resign off the Park and Rec Board. Don DeMeyer actually went off, so I do have interest for him here from Mark Lansik. He's a 3M employee. Evidently, sounds like he's very interested in it, so if there is no objections, I'd like to put him on the Park and Rec Board.
I know Mark really well, he'd be good.
Yeah,
Great, so
children involved in recreation things.
we'll put him on.
Yeah, look at the next council meeting.
We'll put him on the next council meeting. I know Dolph said they might have somebody else that might be resigning, so I do have somebody else in mind, but until the guy resigns, we're not gonna do nothing, so with that,
I saw in the planning commission, they recognize, in the minutes, they recognized Jim Fahey for his 10 years, so is he going off then? And
He is operating.
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, so we have an opening there,
Oh, John Longfellow.
or, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Couldn't remember where we were at.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yes, that, I think they kind of waited to recognize him, because I think but I think they recognized him after he was actually kind of already on.
Melissa's pretty good at that, keeping me up to speed on that, so we check it out every few months here to make sure that try to keep the boards full. And of course, it's hard to find people that want to serve too, but anyway, so with that, everybody have a happy and safe Fourth. And,
May I interject one thing?
Yes, sir.
As soon as I got it with my smart remark, now I have to
okay,
get serious.
now you have something?
But the eagle down at Veterans Park has been raised up off of the ground about 16, 24 inches, whatever it is. It looks fantastic. They did a good job on that, and being the 4th of July is coming up, why, it'd be a good opportunity to take a look at it when you have time. But it looks really great.
It is a great addition to that park.
Yep, it is.
It's right in the forefront when you drive in. And it's,
Yep.
bam, it's right there, and it's beautiful.
It really turned out nice.
Thank you.
Have a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion by Chad, second by Dave to adjourn. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.